Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hannah.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannahs,
where we talk about some of your favorite new releases, or not so favorite.
In the wise words of Bodies, 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 today's episode is a podcast about hanging out with your smartest and funniest friend. So I've already stated we're here with our buddy Matt.
Oh, well, thank you. What a kind compliment that I have not received
ever
before.
Never once called that to anyone.
No. And I think that's a very personal compliment that you've only reserved for me now.
Yeah.
God, that's so nice of you guys.
Yeah,
That's the best.
I'm really good at compliments.
And we still haven't even covered Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
I know, that's what's funny about me saying it
geez.
every time is we have not covered it. So if anyone hasn't seen it, you should probably watch it, because I feel like I'd like to get around to it finally.
We've at least spoiled one line for you.
Yeah. We've spoiled that it's hilarious. But, okay, so today we are talking about Smile 2. So we're going to be spoiler-free for a bit, and we'll let you know when we're going to go into the spoiler zone.
We'll do it. You'll see it.
So, the Smile 2 is directed and written by Parker Finn, who did the first, starring Naomi Scott and Rosemary DeWitt. The back of the box summary is about to embark on a world tour. Global pop sensation Skye Riley begins experiencing increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating worries and the pressures of fame, Skye is forced to face her past.
That about sums it up.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
So, yeah.
We got some background on this?
A little bit. Parker Finn said that when he was writing this movie, he, for a very brief second, considered making Joel the lead, which I think
Joel was the guy from the first
movie, yeah. And I think we all kind of heard about that like he was going to tie in some way. I feel like it was kind of a known thing. He said, I loved him, I love working with him, he's a good friend. Like, this could follow him, but then he said when he was approaching the sequel, he wanted to make sure that anything that could have been traditional or an obvious continuation, he wanted to cross that off the list. He didn't want to do something that was really expected, and he didn't want to take, quote, the easy route. Which I would say this movie definitely takes a more creative approach.
I completely agree. Yeah, I think, and for me, as someone who really did not like the first one, I was like, it was very warm. I was very welcome to the idea of
something
doing something completely different.
Yeah. Naomi Scott actually co-wrote several of Skye Riley's songs, and she sung all of the songs as well, and it is her doing the singing and the choreography. So she said that it was like a very welcome break from a lot of the tense scenes and like the heaviness that was the rest of the movie, which I think is fun. I feel like she really got to do like the full gamut on this film.
Yeah, that's gotta be so interesting to go into work one day and just scream your head off for like 16 hours, and then the next day you're doing like a fun choreographed dance with a couple of people.
Yeah.
I have to say, though, she suffers from the fact that we got the best musician performance this year in Trap, which was actually very similar musical performance, but I'm sorry, I have to give it to, I don't remember her first name, but she's Shyamalan. So
I liked the songs in that one better, but I really, really liked the choreography in that one scene in this. When they're practicing the choreography, I was fucking sold.
I'll give you
I was
that.
in. I love that.
I was thinking about that the whole time. I was like, but I kind of wanted to be Lady Raven.
Well, and Lady Raven, I'm sorry, Miss Shyamalan, but her acting wasn't nearly as good as her stage performance versus this bitch. Like, Naomi Scott is nailing it the whole way through. She is really, really good. A fun coincidence is that the first Smile movie is featuring Cal Penn, and this movie features Peter Jacobson, both of whom have been in-house, or were in-house.
House MD,
Yes.
please.
Which,
That's the full name of the show.
MD.
you don't know what I'm saying if I say house.
Put some respect. He went to medical school.
Okay, yeah, I'll put respect on his name. They were both in House MD, and they both start in the same episode, season 4, episode 2. I would know because I'm currently on season. I said season 4, right? Episode 2. I thought it said season 2, episode 4. Got verbal dyslexia. Yeah.
I don't know what you said.
You don't listen anyways, so that's why. Yeah, they're great. They show up at the same time, so it's funny that they both ended up in this universe.
Suspicious even.
Yeah.
When he came up in the show, Hannah was like, "It's Taub!"
Yeah.
And then she yelled that out in the theater for everyone to hear.
I didn't think. Actually, I kind of did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I said it very audibly.
Hannah doesn't know how to whisper. I don't know if you know.
No, I sometimes know how to whisper. I'm not as bad as friend of the pod, Jason.
Oh, boy.
Sorry. Jason's just loud, though. You just don't know how to whisper.
At a lower pitch at the same time. Bless his heart.
Yeah, we love him, but he can't whisper with his shit. He's the loudest person alive. And especially when you're like, please be quiet, he might get louder.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing, which is kind of a joke, on set they kept saying, this is gonna ruin the tour, which made it into the movie as a line, which was inspired by the memes.
Really? That was filmed after that meme? Is it gonna ruin the tour? What tour?
I
That was
think
Timberlake, right?
that was how it was implied that it was inspired by that, but either way, he said we made that joke a lot on set. The line isn't exactly like the full meme, but I've already seen the memes happening, and I love that people picked up on that.
That's funny.
Fun.
So
I didn't realize. I thought that this would have been filmed before that happened, but
yeah, that's same, and that's why I was like, oh, was it really? But that was his quote, so
We'll give it to him.
what you will.
You just take
Either
it.
way, it's pretty funny that they included it since the cast was going around saying it. They were like, sure, throw that in, that's fine. You do you.
You don't think that's what he's going through, right? Mr. Timberlake? Like something like
oh,
this?
maybe.
Oh,
He kind of.
Well,
I was
he's
gonna
dead
say,
now.
yeah, he'd be dead.
maybe.
I was gonna say he kind of deserves it, but then I realized this results in death, and I don't want to wish death
Yeah,
on
I
Justin
don't want to wish
Timberlake.
death on anyone, but if
He's not a very good person,
he's a
from my
bad
understanding.
person, especially if you haven't read Britney's book, The Woman in Me, he is a piece of shit.
There we go.
Like, he was so horrible.
This is an enemy. He's enemy of the show. This is
He
anti-Justin
is.
Timberlake. Him and Ryan Reynolds are on enemy of the show list.
I have a lot of people who are my personal enemies.
Those are the
I don't
only
know if
ones-
they've been brought up.
Those are the only actors. We'll call Justin Timberlake an actor. He was in Social Network. Those are the only actors enemy of the show. We have a lot of friends of the show. And future friends of the show.
I'm trying to think now.
Yeah.
No,
Above
I've
enemies of the show.
massively slandered. I slandered, but I've also complimented Kevin Bacon.
Oh, true.
He's
He's enemy of
really
the show.
going both.
He's enemy of the show, unfortunately.
He's enemy of
He's
my
his
dad.
personal enemy.
Oh, yeah.
I like Kevin Bacon.
We will fight him.
Yeah.
We will fight him.
But then we'll give him a hug after, and we'll say we forgive him.
I'll still ask for his autograph.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'll chat him up. Every time I see a video of him, it actually makes me smile because he's like, has similar political beliefs and he just seems like a fun dude.
Oh, he's definitely a super nice guy.
Yeah.
It seems like, except when his
Except
dad's
for when he
creeping on
curses
him.
I was gonna say.
out in the bathroom.
Hey, you just slip up once.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
All right.
I love you, Tremors.
Oh my god. I'm sure. I don't think. If you went up to Kevin Bacon and said "love you" in Tremors, I don't know what his response would be. Be like, Tremors? That's the only one.
That's it.
I love Tremors too. That's a good point.
I'm trying to think. He did a recent video where he was talking about his favorite horror movies, and he included another horror movie that he was in that isn't Friday the 13th.
Reasonable.
And he included Smile because of his daughter.
Right.
But I can't remember if Tremors was on the list somewhere.
Tremors is kind of a comedy.
Yeah.
But like, if it's a horror comedy, it counts it off. Okay, whatever. No more Kevin Bacon. So that is my background. Norton said, "Yeah, Mom, shut up talking about the background. You said too much."
He's sick of hearing about Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, it's fine. I get it. I bring him up too much. Just brings me a lot of joy, buddy. So,
Speaking of bringing him up,
yeah.
there he is.
If you're watching the video, go on
Norton's
YouTube
on
and you'll see
camera.
a short, brief moment of Norton.
He's
He's
standing on
gonna
my
just
lap.
be at like the edge of the camera the whole time.
I'm leaving all of this in.
That's
Let's
fine.
totally hear it.
Okay, so before we get into spoiler territory, let's talk non-spoilers, what we liked, didn't like about the movie, whatever we can reveal at this point. So,
I want Matt to go last because we don't. Matt just saw it and he has not told us what he thought yet.
he told me what he thought.
Oh, he told you?
I asked him.
Well, I want to hear it here.
Well, you will hear it here. You don't know.
That's
Okay,
fine.
you go
I'll go
first.
So, as everyone who listens to the podcast knows, I would say I loathed smile, the first one. I think that is enough for a lot of reasons. And I will say this one was significantly better. Like significantly. I know it's easy to be better when you're starting at like a 2 out of 10 stars, but or whatever I gave it. It really, that first one pissed me off. I think this one improves in pretty much every way on the first one. I don't know if it's big enough to say that I liked it, but it was good. It was fine. It wasn't like it's not gonna be the most memorable of all time, but they had some, I think, very good moments, and overall, I enjoyed.
I would go as far as to say that I actively liked this movie. I thought it was good. There are things about it that I don't love, which I will talk about it, but it doesn't offend me like the first one offended me. There was a lot about it that I did really enjoy, and part of that comes down to such a strong leading performance is part of it. Part of it is that I think the theming works a lot better in this movie, and I take it a lot more serious with the way it's approached in this movie. And I thought the scares overall were crafted better and were less cheap. So I'll expound upon that later.
Yeah.
That's briefly. Matt?
I similarly felt not great about the first one. You can check out that episode to see all the details on that. I was so about us going to see this next one and seeing if Mr. Finn would
If he learned from our podcast,
if he would obviously, because he's obviously listening.
we had a call to action to him in our podcast.
He's obviously
Really?
nobody's disputing whether or not he's listening. He's obviously listening, but whether or not he would do more to please us personally. But I was so pleased in that movie theater just 3 hours ago. I thought this was significantly better. Significantly better. I felt like there was a lot more intention behind this, and like Anna was saying, I feel like where the trajectory of the moral compass of the first one was a little off. I felt like they really honed in a lot on this one. Lot of love.
It almost felt like he listened to what we said, though, because I'm pretty sure there were things that were we should. This is what we would want out of this, and it seemed like all of those were hit. And I think immediately by just going with this entire different story about this famous person, that worked so well for me. I was like, there we go. This clicked.
Well, we did briefly talk about, because you guys got that message at the beginning. I was like, hey, horror hour with Anders. I'm so glad you guys are seeing this in theaters. You guys are the lifeblood of us personally. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So that really meant a lot.
I just wanted my writing credit and my residuals.
Shut the fuck up.
All of us get our writing credit.
You did originally give it a 2, but then you raised it to a 3 because we rated it higher.
Well,
I gave it, I think, a 4. I can't tell from looking at the transcript what Matt gave it because it doesn't say which person it is. But I can tell by the way I spoke that I gave it a 4. So this movie, proud to say, was not a 4 and will be above a 5.
spoilers.
Whew, crazy. Yeah.
What other spoiler 3 things can we say? I will say, Naomi Scott was very, very
So
good.
good.
Not a spoiler to say, though. It was funny because she was leagues ahead of, I think, most of the other actors in the movie. In some ways, where it was almost kind of silly at times, where I felt like this is a mean way to put it, but there were times that I felt like she was the one human character in a Muppet movie. And that's disparaging to the Muppets because they're good actors, but it was there was something weird about how she just seemed like it not fitting and around the other actors. So I just think we're not on the same level.
No, it doesn't want to say hi
Throughout,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Well, so am I wrong in saying that?
I don't know if I would necessarily agree with it. I feel like everybody else is just acting like it's like a normal Tuesday, and she's obviously acting like her entire life is going absolutely batshit.
That might be the thing.
But I appreciate it. There was a few moments where that really came through, and I was like, that's actually really funny.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't super impressed with people outside of this movie. I have the bias of loving Taub from
He was fine. Yeah, he was fine.
He seemed like he was putting his pussy into it.
Okay.
But No,
I think the term is whole bussy.
Whole bussy.
I don't think it works. You just say it that way.
Just is
Yeah, I don't know.
part of it.
You can't go half pussy. You gotta go whole pussy.
Okay. Well, she
All right.
more. Okay.
Where are you going with this?
All I was saying was that compared to a lot of out of the supporting cast, I felt like he was trying harder. And then I did like Gemma, even though her character was pretty subdued. She just had the funny, bitchy friend energy. Anything she might have not done amazing at, I think would be more of a product of the character's writing than anything else. I mean,
Did you get bitchy energy from her? I just thought she was like so normal, like incredibly well adjusted.
Yeah, I kind of
got.
maybe a little.
Your bitchy friend. Like,
No,
Jenna.
she just had more. She just had clearer boundaries than.
Well, that's a
I
great
think.
point.
Yeah.
No, she just reminds me in some ways of one of my friends who I had love, but I would maybe describe that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they're saying? No one hates women more than other women. I'm joking.
I like women. I support women.
I'm making
You vote
a
for
joke
women.
about what you're saying. You're fine.
Okay.
I don't know.
We just want to see them put their whole pussy in.
Yeah, that's it. That's all there is.
Pussy is what I'm missing. Quote.
All right.
Director.
What else?
Parker video.
What other things are non-spoilers? I'm thinking that I thought the scares were crafted really well in this
Yeah.
one, especially compared to the first. There was some actual hide, and Hannah let out a scream in the theater,
The
like
scream that
loud.
I scrumped. I have not had a theater scream like that.
It was like kind of embarrassing.
It was
actually.
embarrassing, and I started hysterically laughing after because I felt so embarrassed. But then I continued to
There
embarrass
was a
myself.
lot of tension and like gasps from people in the theater. I thought there were some children in the theaters that were taken out early.
Oh yeah.
Classic Philly
It
theater.
was jolting in my seat quite a few times.
Yeah.
There's a few that I thought was like, this is still kind of cheap. Like they're just taking a quiet moment and screaming in your ear. But for the most part, like I really think a lot of these scary moments are there, and then they further the plot, which is a direct contradiction to the first movie, which is where you get a scary moment, and then you would just backtrack 20 minutes and be like. She'd be like, oh, that would be scary if that would have happened in real life, and then she'd move on.
Well, and I also felt like a lot of the scares in the first one was like, oh, a phone rang.
Oh, yeah. It was just like normal stuff, the doorbell.
Yeah, like it's startling, but it's not scary. Versus this one, even when it was something that maybe was just like a glass fell down. At least they set it up. They showed us the fucking glass. Like even in that way, there's like a slight setup, and it's related to her characterization and like her coping mechanism. So I can even like give it a slight pass for that because it's meaningful in some way versus again a phone.
Altogether, I would say it felt like they said, we're going to give you a bigger budget and less interference.
They
And
did
he
not
was
give
able
them
to.
that much more budget.
I don't know. I'm saying it felt like a bigger budget, but also something like the less interference side of things, where it did what I thought some kind of bold and brave things that I would not have expected from a sequel to a movie that I thought was pretty mediocre. Which is, I think, why it worked so well for me, because it went in these other directions and did like some kind of crowd pleasing stuff that I think some studios might see as risks. I think this movie actually did some risky things. I'll give it credit for that. And that's pretty cool.
Is there anything that you could say?
No, not until
Okay,
spoilers.
Okay. I will have to circle back to that because I want to know what you're referring to.
The ending, specifically.
Yeah.
Wait,
But spoilers. I think that was a huge risk, and I think that's, and we'll get to it, that's like a crowd-pleasing thing. And I also think just going this new route that is almost completely different from the first. They didn't try to retread the first at all, I would say.
Well, and
It was
I-
almost an entirely different movie, an entirely different set of symptoms, I would almost call it, with this character, and a different reaction from the character from the first one, who was more trying to discover what the issue was. This was more just watching this character suffer, I guess,
And cope.
and cope, and like kind of being along for the ride with them.
Yeah, I think he had said that in some interviews that he was trying to show a different version of how the entity could impact you, which I think was successful. I also like thematically, I think this movie covers the same ground, but then builds upon it and covers new ground in a way that I think is really successful. Because we've said this on the pod before too, when a sequel is made and it doesn't bring anything new to the table, that is a useless sequel. We talked about that with A Quiet Place too when we were rewatching it. We were like, is this doing anything other than family? And we were able to pull out other things besides family. But this, I think, again, similar to how that did, like, is able to tread new ground, specifically when it comes to addiction and the power of celebrity and how we treat and idolize celebrities.
Oh, we'll get there. I got plenty to say about it.
Yeah, so I thought that made it infinitely better to me. I thought that its treatment of mental health was done a lot better, personally.
I'm on the same page with you on all that. Oh, yeah. Is it time to start getting into spoilers then? I think we've done all we can. Unless you got anything else.
Now we're entering the spoiler zone! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the spoiler zone. After this point, you're going to hear some things that you might not hear.
As listeners of this show know, I am a huge reader, and not to humble brag, but I'm actually up to 55 books this year. With all this reading, I've been looking for a book podcast, and I've been really wanting one that's funny and insightful, so I was really excited to find the podcast Read It and Screech. Hosted by two witty women with a knack for making modern literature even more fun, this show delivers spot-on plot summaries paired with their signature irreverent commentary. The real magic is their laugh-out-loud banter. And as a married couple podcasting together, you know we love a good podcasting duo. They also keep it fresh with popular, fan-favorite novels, so there's always something excited to dive into. I was so excited to see that they covered Bride by Ali Hazelwood and The Woman in Me by Britney Spears, which I talked about a lot in this episode. Whether you're a bookworm or just here for the jokes, Read It and Screech will have you hooked.
Okay, so I think it's time for us to move into 15-second summaries.
Well, I have my timer up. So, do you want to go first, Hannah?
Shit. I was trying to make
Trying to throw me under the bus,
yeah,
huh?
I know, literally pointed.
I'll go first.
Okay, great.
I'll be brave. I'll
I'm
be a
not
brave boy.
I'm
Alright,
a
are you
very
ready?
unbrave boy.
Alright, go.
Another kick-ass opening scene leads us to a pop star who gets the thing from the first movie. Shit just tears her life apart. It really fucks with her a lot more this time. Makes her believe like whole days are going by and shit. And then she fucking...
Alright, done.
And then she fucking, you know what I'm saying?
Alright, now you ready, Hannah? I'll go last.
That was not at all
I got
prepared
nothing.
for that
I
one.
got nothing.
No, okay.
You ready? Go.
Britney Spears' equivalent adds to allegory about mental illness while also touching on substance use and what it's like to be in the spotlight when you're in recovery.
That's what I was going to say. Alright, go ahead.
Okay.
Alright, Smile Creature gets another victim and in the end gets like all of Madison Square Garden, and Smile 3 is going to be insane because that thing's going to be in a lot of people. The whole world's just gonna die, and then we're going to get a fourth movie where the Smile Monster is lonely on Earth by itself because everyone's dead. That's
It was a little over 15, but
good description, right?
Yeah, we blend into the third of the series.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's
Third and fourth.
I'm getting to the fourth.
Oh,
yeah, we're getting
shit.
the actually. I'm talking 25 years now. The requel where
Oh, no.
the Smile
cash
Monster
grab requel.
The Smile Monster is actually infecting single cell organisms after the reforming.
It's just bored on a desolate Earth, and we used to really start to feel bad for it.
Yeah.
We get a lot of backstory, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's time to feel some sympathy for this trauma monster.
Well, maybe there'll be a bunch of them now, so they can like reproduce, and then we'll have Smile World, and then there'll be a
question as how many of these Smile monsters are existing? Is this one capable of infecting multiple people at a time?
Definitely. That's the whole.
Like
that's what
how-
happened at
how
the
it-
end. This thing just did its master plan.
Yeah,
it just
I know.
infected.
That's the implication, obviously, but we don't know how they're gonna address it in the third.
Really, I was a little like questioning myself too, because I was like, I mean, I know that this is the same one, and I imagine that there's only one of these things out there, like one of these strains.
That's how
It's
I
a
felt.
parasite, right? So I guess they're saying it's one.
But I was like, man, this thing looks so different out of its skin than the last movie. Like,
I thought it looked bad. out of its skin. That's one of my criticisms of
compared to the
film.
last one. The last one
thought it
also
looked stupid.
was in like a candlelit room that I think like helps. This one looked a little more CG.
Yeah, it just looked like a
I liked it. It
fleshy,
looked, he looked
goblin
like
thing.
melty and
Yeah.
like bulbous in points, but still like gangly.
For the
Yeah,
people
I
that haven't
think
seen
he
it,
was
they have no
scary.
idea what we're talking about, so I gotta read this batshit plot summary.
I literally giggled when I saw it. Just
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't laughing at all in that scene.
no, I was like so tense, and then I went.
Well, I know I say that reading these plot summaries is hard every time, but this one is actually very hard.
Maybe
so.
you learned to read that.
No, it's just that there's like a lot of weird shit that happens in this movie. There's a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on that's not actually happening. So I'm gonna hit it right now. So maybe skip 3 minutes, but you two just turn your brains off. So here we go. 6 days after witnessing Rose Cotter's suicide and having the Smile entity's curse passed on to him, Joel attempts to pass it on by confronting 2 criminals, intending to make one of them his witness. After killing one, the intended witness dies in a shootout. However, drug dealer Lewis inadvertently witnesses the event and inherits the curse. Now free, Joel attempts to flee more approaching criminals, but is killed by an oncoming pickup truck. In New York City, Grammy-winning pop star Skye Riley prepares for her comeback tour after a public struggle with substance abuse and a car crash that killed her boyfriend, actor Paul Hudson. Despite constant supervision from her mother and manager, Elizabeth, and assistant Joshua, Skye sneaks out to buy Vicodin from Lewis for her back pain. Skye witnesses him in a manic state, smile, and smash his own face with a weight, killing himself. Traumatized, Skye flees, too afraid to call the police and reveal her presence. Skye begins to experience physical and auditory hallucinations, including people eerily smiling at her. Desperately, she reconciles with her estranged best friend Gemma. Skye receives a text from an unknown number warning her that they know she was at Lewis's apartment and that she's in danger. At a charity event hosted by music executive Darius, where Skye is invited to speak, the teleprompter stalls, later revealed to be as a hallucination, and it forces Skye to improvise her speech, ranting on how music has never inspired her at all. From the shocked audience, she sees a smiling Paul, and in a panic, Skye accidentally injures an elderly patron on stage. Skye meets the unknown texter Morris, an ER nurse who has been tracking the entity responsible for his brother's death. He explains that the curse passes to anyone who witnesses the victim's death. Morris theorizes that the entity is parasitic and can die without a host. He suggests stopping Skye's heart and then resuscitating her to break the curse, but she flees after being recognized by patrons at the bar. At her apartment, Skye is attacked by the entity, which appears as her backup dancers and holds her down as a giant arm is forced into her throat, and then she falls unconscious. A flashback reveals Skye caused Paul's fatal crash by grabbing the wheel during a drug-fueled argument. She later wakes up at a wellness retreat and, after a heated argument with her mother, watches in horror as her mother smashes a mirror and viciously stabs herself with a shard. Skye tries to flee and then realizes that she, under the entity's control, is holding the bloody shard of glass, revealing she had stabbed her mom. Skye escapes the wellness retreat and reunites with Gemma, and together they carjack Skye's private driver to meet Morris for the resuscitation procedure. However, Skye gets a supposed first call back from the real Gemma, revealing that the entity has been impersonating her the entire time. Skye meets Morris at an abandoned Pizza Hut where they plan to use a walk-in freezer to slow the process and prevent permanent brain damage. After Morris steps out, the entity appears as Skye's past self attacks her, but Skye fights it off and injects herself with a syringe meant to stop her heart, only to discover she is still hallucinating. The entity locks her in a closet and then tells her, break a leg. Skye finds herself on stage at her tour's opening night at Madison Square Garden. A still alive Elizabeth, Joshua, and Darius watch from the audience, revealing the entirety of the past several days. Events have been another hallucination. Unseen by others, the entity appears and reveals its true form, a large skinless humanoid with multiple smiling mouths nestled in one another. The entity possesses Skye by breaking apart her mouth and crawling inside of her, while to the audience she appears to choke and collapse. The now possessed Skye stands up, revealing a menacing smile, and fatally stabs herself in the eye with a microphone in front of thousands of horrified spectators. Cut to black. Entity and entirely look very similar.
Yeah.
That was a hard word for me.
I'll say this right from the start. Parker Finn knows how to do a goddamn opening sequence.
Agreed.
The opening of the last movie and this movie are so strong. It's crazy. It's crazy how good the opening of this movie was.
The opening sequence of the last movie is the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
and
it is the best part.
The only
And
good part. I don't know.
he holds steady. I was so in it. The second that dude, they hit you with that 6 days later, and I was like, 6 days later, and I was like, from the last movie, dog.
I completely agree with you. I thought that was some of the most tense scenes in the movie, and I mean, not scary, but like tense.
Yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like
Just
completely compelled, and was like, oh my god, is this movie like really, really good?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I as much as I still enjoyed a lot of the rest of the movie, I do think that's like a high point right off the bat, which is fine. I'm fine to ride that high the whole way out.
That's a good high point of the movie. My only thing with that one is that Lewis is that Lewis doesn't watch him die, as far as I can see.
It's hard
Because
to tell,
he jumps out the window, but all the windows are boarded up in the front of that house.
Lewis was already there.
Lewis was in the house.
Yeah.
But he doesn't die till he gets out the house and hit by a car.
No.
That's not what did it.
That's not what did
It's
it.
watching
Lewis saw him kill the other
other
guy.
guys.
Remember, you can spread the curse by killing someone else in front of somebody. That's why he went.
So right.
He went to
forgot
kill
about
the
that.
guy in front of the other guy, but he ended up killing both on
And
accident.
then that's why he was like,
So he
I'm
was
so
like, oh,
sorry, I
no.
didn't know you were
Yeah.
here. Like, you did not mean to do that to
I
Lewis.
forgot about that. Okay. All right. Well, that makes
That's why he
sense.
tracked down 2 drug dealers. Or
Yeah.
When I say drug dealers, these aren't
way
pot
to,
dealers. These are like high level ruining community type dealers.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm going to kill one in front of the other, so I'll just end up.
This is so dope.
Yeah. Kind of fascist, if you ask me. He's a cop taking justice into his own hands. I don't know, man.
It was kind of smart, though. I mean,
It was smart.
Yeah.
Smile 2 brought to you by Marvel.
I kind of forgot that he was dead, though, because then when she was getting texts from Taub/Morris, I was like, oh my god, it's the cop trying to help her out. And then I was like,
that's a you problem.
He probably
He is-
made it out of that car accident.
He's very,
He probably
very
made it
dead.
out. They never showed him
Like,
die.
he was very smeared.
Would have been the
across
most
the whole
insane
road.
plot twist is she wakes up like in the hospital and he's just there. Just like alive from the beginning, even though we saw his like body cut in half.
God,
There we go.
crazy.
Good movies.
Well, yeah, because I was like, I would some random dude would be stupid, but then it was Taub, so then I got over it. But
No, it made sense. I thought it being Taub.
no, the connection is fine. I didn't actually have a problem with it. I just like my brain was like, that's such a good connection. Oh,
But then you start asking yourself, was
He's
Taub
dead.
even real?
exactly. And it's hard to know, and I don't know if that's a problem or not for me.
So I usually have a big problem when a movie is like, none of it was real, everything was a dream.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie does the groundwork to allow that to be an acceptable answer. And I think it also works well because I am questioning at what point did the dream start. If you know exactly when it started and exactly when it ended, kind of lame. But the fact that anything throughout the movie could have been fake or real and I have no idea, I think makes it more fun for me. And I'm like very interested, like what actually like happened here. You know?
I found myself a little frustrated that so much of the end was a hallucination or whatnot. But, and because also like just being in an abandoned Pizza Hut freezer was kind of silly to me.
Yeah,
But
Great product
that was the whole monster's idea. Was that it was in a Pizza Hut.
yeah,
Why did add
Why
that
Pizza
detail
Hut?
into the hallucination, right? Like, what difference did that make?
yeah, it's very specific.
I mean, maybe it was, well,
This monster's got
oh
jokes.
yeah, you're right.
This monster's
That
got
would've been-
jokes.
That's
It's a
funny.
funny monster.
Dude knows how to place a product, to tell you that much.
He must love pizza. Or hate pizza and be like,
might
this
hate Pizza
company's
Hut.
down the drain, dog. Look at this abandoned one.
Yeah, it's hard to know if they got money for product placement for this, given the nature of the product placement.
Yeah.
They had to have. If you say Pizza Hut, that's product placement enough.
No, if it is, actually.
Oh, maybe not.
Parker Finn, hit us up. Does the
us
monster
know.
like Pizza Hut or hate Pizza Hut?
Well, all right, where were we going with this? I'm lost. Oh, it was about that how it's hard to tell what in the movie was fake
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
and what wasn't. I have no issue with that in this one. I feel like I said it's not. I think it can be like a cheap out sometimes or a cop out, and I don't think it is in this. So.
I got to a point after she killed Mom, I was like, well, that's not real.
I also was thinking that.
But then it went on so long that I was like, if it's not real, I'm going to be mad. But then it went on so long that I was like, nah, shit, fuck it, that's fine.
But it all gets paid off because he puts her in the closet, which is really that shell that
Yes.
she comes out of in the concert.
Yes.
And he says, break a leg.
The
And
payoff
you're
is
just
so
like,
good.
or she actually says to herself,
Yeah.
you break a leg. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly where this is going.
Yeah.
And then for them to follow through with her just like killing herself on stage in front of a bunch of like
I was
children audience.
I was so sure too that the shell was going to open up, she'd be out there, and it would be scary for a little while, and then she would like wake up having gone through the entire procedure, and then that would be the end of the movie. And the fact that they were like, guess again, boy, the Pizza Hut was fake.
Yeah.
I loved it, actually.
And also,
I kind of felt more satisfied.
Now
with
we've
that one.
infected. How big is Madison Square Garden? Should have looked it up.
Real big.
Yeah, was it Madison
big.
Square Garden or was it a different, like...
It was MSG.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Because I
It's
know
New
they had
York,
flashed
like,
up
it's
something else.
definitely-
Yeah, I just didn't know if they were like, oh, this is, this is Jocelyn's Square Palace or whatever,
Jocelyn's.
Well, no, MSG, and so now a bunch of people are infected, which I love because it either ends the story, and we don't have to say any more smile, or he can go. Which I love it at a bleak ending like this because it's like entertaining and fun almost. Or we get the most batshit third movie, which will probably be even better than this one if we continue to take these risks.
Yeah,
So.
it'd be fun to explore how this curse, disease, infection, how it works.
And I would be interested to see how they would do it if so many people are infected, because I don't think you can then focus on one person the whole movie.
No, it's like a pandemic movie now.
Exactly. Which would be...
I love that.
Like you
that's
could
growing.
go in a fairly different direction too, which he clearly likes to do and be kind of ambitious with that, which paid off really well, making it a bigger scale issue in this movie. So making it the biggest scale issue would be really cool. I also loved how they didn't show her dying by suicide because, again, I think sometimes that can be gratuitous, and especially with shoving a microphone through her head. I didn't need to see it. I couldn't look when Lewis was bashing his face in with the weight.
Oh.
Like, I did not watch that. I don't want to watch it. So
they did some cool stuff with like the
his
cuts.
face. No, I looked up.
I
I would like look up at his face and be like, all right, that's fine. I'm gonna cover again.
Yeah, absolutely. Flowers to the special effects departments and the
sound design.
Yeah, sound design. The CG department. I mean, they like that. All of those shots look so good.
I wanted to touch on what you said about them not showing her. I don't know if it's for the reason that you were saying that they did it.
Well, no, I'm just saying
You just
I
like it for
liked that, but I also think it makes it tenser, and I think it's really fucking alarming to see that audience full of people watching it happen, and like I think it makes it so clear how big the threat is because you're seeing all of the people being affected.
So I find I was going to say I completely agree with you. I love that we see the crowd. But I definitely get like a different reaction because at that point I was kind of beaming that they actually went through with this.
Yeah.
That like I found it so funny.
Yeah.
In like a good way. It was more like I'm excited that they did this to just see these like just horrified people like looking on at this, just a person just bashing their skull in with a microphone on stage is just such an insane thing to me. And I definitely think it's supposed to make you think about the Eras Tour a little bit, at least the way that she performs.
He literally compared it to the Eras Tour in interviews. He was like, imagine if Taylor Swift were going through this, guys.
Oh, I'm not even worried about... Yeah, well, that would be sad. But just the idea of, like, the Eras Tour, which is like massive, and, like, a lot of young people, and this just most batshit insane thing happens like this. Something about it, I don't know, it makes me, like, laugh a little. I know that's a little morbid. But
For me, that scene, like, when you see the crowd actually react, that's when I knew, oh, this is not
this is real.
This is a real thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And it felt a little bit more, like, it felt new and just as impactful as if we were to see her, because we've seen so much, like, blood, gore, violence things happen throughout the movie. It was really fun to just see somebody reacting to it, like, specifically. And a ton of people reacting to it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun in the theater just looking around at different actors in that close-up.
Them just screaming at it.
Yeah.
It was a great moment. I can't help but call it funny. I don't know what else to call it. Funny is not the right word, but it's like
I think it
exciting.
just is like, it was an excited giggling because you're like, holy shit, they went there. They
similar
did
to how with The Substance.
Yeah.
The Substance was more batshit. But
sometimes you giggle because you're like, oh, I really like what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Funny is the only word I can describe. I don't know how else to... I need to get more in touch with my emotions, apparently.
So I know we just kind of talked about the end, but I do want to talk about the scares throughout the film because we highlighted how we think they are better overall.
Some of them were fucked.
Which ones
actually,
did you find most, like in particularly the most fucked?
I'm trying to remember
I have two.
Okay, remind me. I'm thinking about the one with the dance troupe all around her, but there was one before it that I thought was scarier, and I can't remember what it is.
Headlights. Gemma in bed next to her.
The headlights.
Oh my god! Yes,
Headlights was actually kick-ass. And at first I was like, is this just a jump scare? And then my brain sort of caught up with my eyes and I was like, oh no, those are headlights. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
That was very scary.
Yeah, that was fucked up. will say Mike Flanagan just did that in Bly.
Oh, true. It was really
over
scary
and
in
over
Bly.
again. But even though it's like the exact same thing, because it's again an accident-related trauma.
Yeah,
in that
it
too.
still ties back to like prior information.
Yeah, I don't care if he directly ripped it off. This shit worked so well. It scared the fuck out of me.
I swear there was another one that had me like.
That was the one we commented in the theater.
That was
like,
really scary.
That
That was a really good. It must have been the dance troupe one then, where she's being followed
Holy
around her room
shit.
by her entire dance troupe, her entire backup crew.
I wasn't watching. I could not watch that scene.
Oh, it's so cool.
I was sitting. Well, I was trying to watch. I was sitting. If you could see me on video with my hands
Your
like
hands.
kind of crisscrossed over my face, so I could see a little bit, and then I'd be like, no,
Well,
too
don't cover your mouth.
scary, too scary, and then
Yeah.
I'd check again, and then so I tried to like miss this where the camera first moves to them moving.
Oh yeah.
Because I knew that would startle me, but then I could look,
By all rights, it shouldn't have been scary. Like everything, it did not follow the convention of any other scare. Everyone was visible. It was just people. None of them were scary looking.
Well, it's because every shot they had moved, so they're moving off camera,
Yeah.
and you don't know where they're going to be when the camera moves back to them.
At some point,
and they all
they
have
move.
them creepy ass faces.
But I'm saying, like, by all other conventions, it's shocking. That basically all came down to camera work and like setup, because like you can see everything, so it's not knowledge of, or not. It's not the unknown and what's not there. It's not something scary to look at. It's just like, holy shit, the entire entity is there as 20 different people that were only moving when she's not looking, and we're placed between her and them too, which I think puts us in the way of the danger a lot. And I'm just very impressed, because I think it really took a lot of skill and a lot of craft to make this as scary as it was. Because I think in the hands of a lot of directors, it wouldn't have been.
yeah. What did you think? Do you have anything to add on those, or any other scares that you wanted to dive into a little more?
Loved that whole sequence with the dancers. I just thought that was so interesting. I was watching it too, thinking like, how are the people on top doing this?
Yeah.
Like I was like, they're stacked like 5 people high. How is this even working? And I'm sure they did a lot of it super practically. I'm just I kind of want to get like some like behind the scenes
like
just to
Parker,
know. I was like, was there like a platform, like a 2-story platform or something, and they were sort of like balanced on that and then doing cool hand things to block it? I'd be interested to learn a little bit more about just how that was filmed and done. But it was so interesting and so like
it was really well blocked. Like
yes. Really well blocked. I loved that whole moment. I could not take my eyes off the screen.
Parker, I know we talk shit, man, but like you listened to the criticism, so we'd love to have you on to tell us how you
my
did this
God.
one.
Yeah.
I'll apologize. I won't apologize for the criticism of the first one, but I will give you praise for this one.
Yeah,
it's
as we're doing. And I'll probably have a lot of ideas for Smile 3000.
Smile 3.
yeah.
It's actually a crossover movie with Malignant 3000.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think what else. There was only really like one scare that I was like, this one kind of feels a little cheap to me. Which was, it's like, this was the last video that Lewis took before he died, and it's just him sort of pointing the camera at a dark corner
That
in
was
the
it.
room.
Yep.
And then like, I'm like the whole
Oh,
time
that
too, they're
fucked
building the
him.
tension. I'm like, I know they're just gonna, like, she's gonna remove the phone, or it's gonna be behind her or to the side. He's just gonna be there screaming in her face. But it's like, I know that this is where this scene is going.
It worked for me.
And then it did, and I was like, oh, whatever.
Nope, that one completely worked for me.
I knew where it was going, especially
I
because it was
knew.
really similar to that scene in Oddity that you just had no idea that it was coming, and I was like, I'm not looking at that shit, buddy.
I mean, they do, like, I feel like there's 1,000 examples of, like, you just look, like, a camera just zooms in slowly on a photo that's not doing anything, and then we cut away. And
but I will say, like, it built the tension so well with him just panning around. Not even just the focusing on that one spot in the room necessarily, just the whole.
I'm not gonna lie.
apartment.
Part of me was
I was fucked up.
Part of me was kind of hoping that there wasn't just going to be a screaming scare happening. That it would just be that. And that she would be like, or that she would see maybe something, or it would just be nothing, and she'd be like, "That's so weird,"
I think it's
but that's exactly
unsettling
what's
as
going on with
hell
me.
See nothing, because
it
that
doesn't
just shows
need
you.
it doesn't need a ghost screaming in your ear like a Six Flags employee.
I agree with you, and I usually agree with you. Like when this is in other movies, I think because the pre-work was so good, it was like acceptable to me, because I was most scared when it was just the camera facing the black corner, him going, "Do you see that?" That was so unsettling, and that's the more memorable part to me. I don't even really remember what the scare was after, but that part I really
just
really
the ghost of Lewis screaming in her ear.
Oh,
that's it.
And
the second
part.
she collapses out of bed, which she does like 80 times in this movie too. Just sidetrack myself again, but she collapses out of bed so frequently. Like every time she's in a bed, she only gets out one way, and it's collapsing out of it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else scare-wise that I thought was really good.
Well, I'll just say it. I think I hid like 7 times. I
you
screamed once. But it was
you scream,
bad.
That it was like the whole theater could hear you.
Embarrassing. Because normally when you're in theaters, you try and control yourself, which is why I think I hid more. Because I was like, I don't want to scream. The scream was the headlights, I think.
No, I thought it was later. There's a scare we're forgetting, I think, but
no, I'm pretty sure it was the
There's lots of
headlights.
scares.
There was
any of the time, like the time when the mom just suddenly turns, and you're like, "Whoo!" That hit me. That was one of my jolts.
Kind of fucked up of me, but when she killed Mom, and I was like, well, I know it's not real, so I feel fine, like, thinking this thought, but I was like, she deserved it, so it's fine.
The mom deserved it?
The mom was being so invalidating of her struggles and her health.
Absolutely not. The mom was doing what mothers should do, which is sort of giving you a dose of reality. Look, I have been with you through the entirety of this whole thing.
She acted correctly as a parent?
I would say so, yeah.
She only cared about her daughter as a commodity, as a famous person.
I don't know if I was
care about her as a child.
In my opinion, with the exception of like Lewis and her boyfriend who died in the car, everyone else was pretty well adjusted in this movie. So and it feels so far off because she's so far off.
I think,
and we are taken with that journey with her.
I was gonna say so.
The mom had one moment of maybe saying a slightly wrong thing, but like obviously coming from like a fine place. No, she was doing the best that she could.
Wait, hold on.
I absolutely think
let's
so.
Just 1 second, because I'll moderate this, because I agree with both of you. But I need to explain why. We got to get to themes, because this is themes. This is fitting into themes.
Yes.
And the one we're going to go with right away that I talked about was, I think this whole movie is very much about the treatment of celebrities, and specifically the ones that have been kind of used as a commodity. I think there's a lot of scenes that are... Very Britney, very Lindsay Lohan. And I think they're using imagery that is supposed to remind us of that.
Like ripping out hair.
Yes, the ripping out hair is very...
Britney shaving her hair off.
Yes, I think the coming back with the shorter hair, I think it's really about that, the plight of that like kind of used musician, especially women. And I that's why I think that this trauma theme works so much better. What I think you guys are arguing about is there are kind of 2 ways to look at this, which is... we are seeing it from Skye's perspective, right? So Skye is possibly seeing it from her own lens of everyone hates me, I'm being used, this is happening. It's also possible, though, that she is crying for help and is asking for help, and it does feel like she's being ignored by her mother, by the people around her. I don't know what perspective we are seeing. It is either we're seeing her perspective of I think we're seeing what her brain is telling her, but I also do think, though, she is trying to get help, and it does feel like no one is listening.
I think part of that, too, it feels so magnified. One, because we're on the ride with her, but now we also have all this context on us that nobody else around her could possibly have. She's also not really communicating it to anybody. Unfortunately, she tries to, but Gemma ends up being...
She kind of does with her mom, but again, we don't really know if that's a real conversation.
Yeah, that's the issue, is we don't know if it's real. I saw her as very much, like, towards the end, not quite in the beginning, towards the end, very much asking for help. I just think the point that we're seeing her blatantly be like, I can't do this, is... some of that might not be real, but even with the teleprompter scene, which we've kind of skipped over, how great that whole, how tense and uncomfortable that whole thing was. Even with that,
stop, dog. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good."
But she literally tells Mom, like, "I can't do this. I'm not in the headspace for that." And especially because this is a character who has a known history of trauma as well as a known history of mental illness and use. Like, it's very known to everyone in the world, especially her mom, who's her manager. So take that seriously. And I think that's one of the differences from the first one, where I think some of the, like, I understand regardless, people might see it as like a hallucination or something. But I think in this case, whether it's a hallucination or not, you know she has a history. That means that you should take her seriously when she says, I can't do it, I don't feel up to it.
See, how I would see it is that the mother is rightfully holding her accountable to something that she had committed to as an adult woman who is, you know, a performer in this industry. She commits to this against the mother's, like, sort of like pseudo hand gestures. Like, she's like, from across the room. She goes, no, I can do this.
Oh, I saw
very
that as
blatant.
mom saying,
Yeah, I thought
mom was completely against it. Like, she's like, oh no, we have other
Darius,
things.
She
you
had
have to stay on your sleep schedule. You have to stay on your hydration.
No.
Like, she was really on top.
With
of
Darius,
it.
she had to.
With Darius, mom was like, no, you have to do this.
That was the one she had to do.
I didn't see that at all. I saw the complete
basically
opposite.
Say that. Well, she calls her mom, and her mom's like, no, you have to do this.
Because she had committed to it.
That's the point. She had already committed, but she committed directly in front of her mom, and I thought in juxtaposition of what her mom was saying.
I thought the mom's gesture, I think we read it as the opposite of her being like, you have to do it.
Yeah,
and Skye was like, yay, I'll do it.
It seems like that there's a lot of pressure put on her by a lot of people, and then including herself. And I do think,
true.
I will also say, I think part of the story is that it's still probably too soon for her to be coming back for this. And it's like, clearly they need to do it, and she's not put the pressure on herself. And I think you can actually, in this one, compared to the last one, remove the smile monster from this and see this all as metaphorical for the anxieties from her trauma, substance abuse, and the pressure she's putting on herself.
Yeah.
To like get to this point. I think the smile monster in this one actually elevates it and makes it kind of fun.
You're supposed to be able to read it without the monster entirely, which the first one you really can't, and this one
there's
you
really
can.
nothing that happens in the first one without the monster.
And
there's nothing that happens with the monster too, because it's all fucking imaginary anyway.
And I think the monster's almost more evil in this one for this, because it's like we are seeing it is actually manifesting as real anxiety she would have, except like worse. It's kind of actually, I think, more similar to the Babadook in that way in this one, where it's it's taking an issue that's already there and bringing it to like the forefront. And I will say another scene that I think goes to this whole, I think similar to Brittany or another, I'm trying to think of other examples of where that's happened. It's happened a lot in the US throughout the past 20 years.
I mean,
actually longer.
Brittany, Lindsay,
let's go all the way
Demi
back
Lovato,
to
and that's just
who's the girl that played, I can't think of her name, that played Dorothy.
Oh, Judy Garland?
Yeah.
Judy Garland goes all the way back to that, too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, now I lost my train of thought because I went all the way back there. Oh, the scene where she trashes the room. Mm-hmm. That one was like so heartbreaking for me because she did not destroy that room at all. Do you remember the dressing room?
Oh, yeah.
She did not destroy that room, but mom comes in and is like, oh, well, you know, she's under a lot of pressure. She has this issue, and she's like, no, mom, I didn't do this, and no one will like believe her. Mm-hmm. It seems like no one will like believe her, and she is again asking for help.
That's a tough one. And like, but what's great about how the smile monster, you know, works in tandem with those problems is just by sprinkling in a little extra, like you were saying, like just taking these like sort of existing things and magnifying them or bringing them to the surface by just having what's his face leave the room and smile at her.
Yes.
That's all all it needed to do for her to like blow that out.
And that whole scene is just so like heartbreaking to me, because I think that's also an example of like, let's remove the metaphysical monster and say that she did do this and that it is just like her explosiveness from this trauma. That's another situation where mom and the assistant need to be going, okay, she is not well enough to be doing
why
this.
Is that happening?
Why is this happening? But instead they just go, no, we'll just clean it up. But you still, like, we're not going to remove the cause. Like, we're going to just try to treat the symptoms of this. Mm-hmm. We're not going to remove the cause of this stressor. Yeah. And she's literally asking for help in that situation. She's asking for help with the smile monster. But again, let's see it as she's asking for help with this internal like turmoil. Well, and I think she just continues to get ignored. The only person that listened to her is Taub. And he said, yeah, let's...
He might not be real.
He might not be real. And and her friend that isn't real.
Yeah.
Well, jeez, that sucked. That was like a punch to the gut when it was like, oh yeah, sorry it took me a few days to call you back. I was like, what? Damn. And then the small monster fucking slept in bed with her.
Well, and then also like, what are all those texts about? And then she's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
What I was gonna add to to what you were saying, Matt, with the, like, thinking about it specifically with Brittany, since we brought her up so many times, and since I did read her book, thinking about just, like, her family was like, yeah, you're so ill that you need a conservatorship, but we're going to throw you on stage. We're going to throw you on this tour. Then we're moving you to Vegas. We're going to throw you on stage in Vegas every night. And then Brittany would, like, literally ask for time off, and they'd be like, sorry, booked you for something else because we don't really care. And so that is what I think, having that real life example is why I saw the mom being less empathetic than maybe you did, or less like, this is an agreement you have, so we have to hold it. I'm thinking about it from, like, Brittany's dad, who's like, fuck you, I want your money.
That's also how I was seeing it. I don't know if I would say that mom was to that level, and I think it's supposed to be kind of,
and I
she's
think it's
supposed to be
good
someone
that
in the
they
middle.
don't do it that way, because then it would be like watching cartoon characters.
Yes.
You know?
She's actually, mom is dynamic. She's very much left in the middle for us to say, well, she is holding, she's like being a good mom and a good manager by holding to her responsibilities, but also it seems like this girl is asking for help and she's doing nothing to help her. And I think that also is the entire movie is keeping us in the dark on a lot of things because we're from her perspective.
Yeah.
So once again, we are seeing what she is seeing. And like it's sad because this is how she sees everybody. This is how she thinks everyone sees her, is what I should say.
Yeah.
And we're not certain how they're seeing her, and we're not really certain how they're acting. And I think there's a part where she tells herself, like, yeah, everyone's just using you, everyone just hates you. It's basically that. And it's like, well, maybe this whole movie was lying to us. Maybe they were actually like trying to help her.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to know. And I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it plays especially well with the sort of plight of somebody who's going through, addiction and how they then see the world, especially when they are in contact with people who have known them throughout that process. It's, you will put upon your own opinions for them.
Yeah.
And that can be really tough to overcome. And I think this movie does a really good job of illustrating that in a sensitive way.
I completely agree. Especially compared to the last one. This metaphor that the last one was trying to do actually works phenomenally with this story. It's really impressive to go from what I would say was like just the worst possible way to do this to then maybe what I would think is one of the best ways to do it. And one of the most unique ways that I've seen it done.
I mean, literally the first one, our takeaway was like, okay, nothing you can do about your trauma will help. You should just die. And this one, I think, is saying, obviously, you shouldn't just die. I think this one is saying a lot more about, like, when people are asking for help, you fucking help them. And, like, having a support network through that trauma is so important. But also what it's saying about celebrity and then the plight of substance use. I think it's just so much more layered.
And showing you the perspective of that person.
Yes, yeah.
And like, how they might be interpreting, which, like, again, it's the smile. The smile monster almost acts as her own subconscious, like talking to her, which is like so different from the last.
Definitely uses subconscious thoughts and fears like weapons.
Yeah. But it could, I keep saying this, the smile monster could just have been her own brain. If we could remove the more extreme stuff that happens at the end and just would have been like, no, this is just what her brain is saying to her.
Yeah,
you could read it that way subtextually. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Do we want to move on to favorite scenes?
Yes, but I need to ask Matt something.
Okay, go ahead.
The guy that played Paul, remember when he walked up on stage smiling at her?
Oh,
do you know whose son that is?
I do know whose son that is.
Cool.
Yeah.
For the listener, that is Jack Nicholson's son.
And I think, like, heard that he was in it at some point and forgotten. And during that scene, I'm looking at him and I go, I did the Leo pointing meme from. I was like, that's Jack Nicholson's son. I was like, there's no way in hell it's not his son.
Yeah,
and
right.
And then I started remembering.
As soon as he's smiling, you're like,
oh, that's him. It looked just like him. Looked
yeah.
like identical to him. It was weird.
They said, Parker Finn said he didn't write the part for him, but once he wrote the part, he was like, this guy needs to be this part because of, like, thinking about The Shining and everything.
He also killed it in the scene he was in. Also, another well-crafted scene, the car, before she wrecks the car.
I like the camera work. I wish it had gone a little further back. I wish I had seen something happen and then understood why they were yelling at each other. Because from my perspective, I was like, all right, the camera work's cool, but they're just yelling at each other.
It was just drug fueled. There was
Yeah,
absolutely no
I don't
reason.
think
Literally,
I would have loved a little bit more. Or I don't know.
it
Just
seemed-
drug fueled
it
yelling at
seemed
each
like-
other feels like.
it seemed like it was just
It felt like, honestly, to me, like a little wasted opportunity. I feel like they could have done more with it.
Yeah, I worry that if it were something small and petty, which is probably what it was, which is what happens when we bicker in a lot of our relationships. Like Matt and I bicker over stupid shit all the time. We're not fighting to this
I wouldn't say all the
degree.
time, but sure.
But like, yeah, well, oh my
It's
God.
not really all the time.
Okay, but I'm saying like
So
someone
funny.
will say something or phrase something and we're like, what the fuck? And I feel like that's probably where this came from, but I think there's the risk when it's someone who's like on substances. I worry that people could just use that to stigmatize or something. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that we don't have some like stupid basis for an argument on that. It just starts from the heat of the moment.
Yeah, I would have just
Personally,
liked something.
I don't know.
It felt like it just started out of nowhere.
I thought that
And
was
I
the
was like,
point, to be honest.
It
So
probably
I don't.
was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have done more that would have made it feel even more impactful. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but
Fair enough. Okay.
that was my only
yeah.
qualm. Camera work was cool as hell.
Yeah.
It was tense.
That scene was tense
Yeah.
as fuck.
The scene of the car flying
I
through
love
the air
that
was
every
also-
time they switch from one person to the other, you just get a quick glimpse
Of
of
the
the
middle of
headlights,
the road.
and then you're like, ooh.
Well, because I kept
Is that the one?
expecting a car to be actively in front of them and hit them, and
Yeah,
instead you have, when you finally see a car, there is the build up to it because she's the one who yanked the wheel. So I liked that the build up didn't even play until like a straight scare.
Shout out
Yeah,
to the
that's
CGI
fun.
team again. The shot from inside the car of it flying off the road into the trees was actually really cool.
Not
and I
bad
felt like
at
the
all.
weight of it, like I felt like I was in the car. It felt like a Disney ride a little bit, or a Universal ride. I felt like I was on one of the
Hell yeah.
the
Let's
Harry
get a dark
Potter.
ride.
Yeah,
Right.
Disney.
Dark ride.
Get the Smile 2
dark
ride up in this. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Epic Universe.
Yeah, Epic
2.
Universe.
Yeah.
They're getting the Dark Universe.
A car
now.
ride with Naomi.
Yeah, that's really dark. It is like,
Yeah, maybe not that.
yep. All right.
Favorite scene?
For me, it's either the very opening scene. I would have three: very opening scene, car scene, or the end. But it's probably the end.
I'm gonna
I
give
loved
it-
the ending.
I'm gonna give it to the scene that I could barely look at at all and say the dance sequence I thought was the most effective at scaring the bejesus
Not
out
the
of me.
dance sequence. There's a different dance sequence.
The
the
dancers
dancers scare. Yeah.
sequence. I also loved the dance sequence though. I was really into the choreography.
Oh, yeah.
I
I
was
just-
really into it.
I just
was
needed to
so there.
specify.
So both of them actually. Okay.
In the spirit of saying something different to the other
Sorry, I
ones
said
that have been
three.
said, the first, not the first smile pass on, but when Lewis smashes his face in with that weight, that whole scene I thought was so interesting, kind of funny, and then the tension sort of creeps up on you, where you're like, oh, it's been quiet for a while with him now. And then you're
Yeah.
like, and you know, you have that great, the audience knows what's happening, and you're just sort of like waiting for it to happen. And I felt like I was like a kid at a candy shop being like, oh, man.
That scene was hard to look
But
at.
but then you're met with just such a trophy of a series of face swaps. I was so happy watching that, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. I thought that scene looked fantastic.
Well, we've covered all our main discussion points besides rating the movie.
Yeah, and I think we nailed it on themes. That was a good discussion, guys. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna pat us on the back. Especially disagreements made that discussion even better. So
Hey.
I get to moderate a little.
Maybe we are pretty good at this podcasting thing.
I think so. we need some more listeners. All right,
Yeah, that's the real problem.
maybe just
Hey.
cut out that part. Yeah, listeners.
Balls in your
Again,
court.
Someone's on TikTok Live right now. Give us a follow.
Hell yeah.
We're about to rate the movie.
Hell yeah.
Go back and listen to the theme discussion. It was good. All right,
Okay.
so we're gonna rate Smile 2 now. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I got on the movie, I rated it on Letterboxd a 2.5 out of 5,
That's stupid.
which is low. I think it's hard. I think I'm putting it on the Letterboxd rating of other movies and not just like horror movies. But I would definitely say it's probably on a similar level to something like Drag Me to Hell. So it's got to be at least like a 6 or 6.5 out of 10 for me. So maybe like 6.5.
What about you?
10.
I'm going strong 7.5.
That's what I was gonna say.
I liked this movie. I thought this movie did a lot great. I cannot not look at this movie in the lens of I've seen the first movie, I didn't like it, and you're watching the growth of what it will be an incredible director. Who is already a great director. He's going to be an incredible director, and I will be absolutely looking forward to anything that he does in the future. I thought this movie was leagues above, and I can only imagine that's the trajectory he's going to keep going.
That's what's most impressive, is to really have what I think is a pretty weak movie turn into something this strong.
Yeah.
And so much stronger.
I still think
he's got
every way that we
better.
criticized the first movie, it was an improvement.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just shows he listens to the
I was also going to give it a 7.5. When I left the movie, I was like toying with like a 7, but I think I like it a lot more than some of the stuff I've given a 6 or a 7. I just don't think it's as perfect or as good as the things I've rated higher than that.
Yeah.
So here we are.
I will honestly say I also think part of my rating drop, and this is uncommon for me, there were some scenes that were actually like so unsettling and like genuinely scary that it was harder for me to be like, I want to watch it again in a different way, because some movies like are so scary that I'm like, this is fantastic, I love it. This one, I think some of them just hit in a different way that I didn't love.
I need to see it again because I didn't look at half the shit. So I'm pretty excited to see how I take it in on the second viewing.
I noticed this about myself towards the end. I had developed a negative connotation with her bedroom.
Yep.
Because I was like, she's in the bedroom again. Some scary shit's about to happen. Like, we're not safe here.
And you're just like, actually, I want to be done.
Yeah, I was like, I'm stressed. I'm stressed. I know it's going to happen. I'm looking out for it. I'm not even paying attention anymore.
And I feel like it's successful.
That's a good,
Yeah,
that's
if you're
a
sitting
good.
there feeling like shit.
I have to glaze Parker Finn one more time. I came out of that first one and was like, why the hell would you ever make a sequel to this? And now I'm seeing Smile 2 and I'm like, give me Smile 3. Like, I will be
3 and 4 better be on its way.
Like, I'm actually so interested in Smile 3. It feels like the good ending of Little Shop of Horrors. The good bad ending.
See that. I see that.
Like I don't know if anyone knows, but there are 2 endings of Little Shop of Horrors, and the better one is the one where where he doesn't win.
Audrey too.
Audrey gets eaten, and then the plants take over the world, and it's fantastic, and that's what we're getting here, and that's what I want.
I've said this before, and I don't know if I've said it on the pod, but I've always held this stance with monster movies. Best case scenario is you get away for now at the end of a monster movie. For like, as far as like surviving, the best case scenario is the monster always wins.
Yeah.
Monster always wins in a good monster movie, because if they don't, then they were just a minor inconvenience. Like, it's not really a monster.
I agree.
But yeah,
and this is the best way for them to win.
It's so good, and it's like outsmarting both her and the audience. I guess outsmarting sort of like a different. She's not outsmarting her; she's just fully distorting her entire idea of reality. Creating a Pizza Hut out of nothing just to distract her.
Oh my gosh. The Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
I can't say
maybe
that was her own brain,
me,
though.
honestly.
Maybe her pizza was in her brain.
Maybe she
already
dipped
there.
into the treasure trove of subconscious and was like, ooh, a Pizza Hut.
Well,
I want to learn more about this ding dang monster, man.
I want to learn where Parker Finn decided to go with Pizza Hut.
We're excited for Smile 3, though. I gave the first one a 2 or 3, this one a 6 or a 7, so we're on pace for a 10.
The next
for
one
Smile
should
3.
be like a 12 or 14.
Yeah.
We're on the way
I'm
up.
so hyped.
So,
all right.
I got nothing else to say. Matt, thank you for joining us again.
Hey, happy to be here. I'm so glad we revisited it. I'm really glad we revisited it. 'Cause
me
I don't know
too.
if I would have seen this on my own.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah. I'm glad that you didn't get too stuck in traffic this time. This is the second time he went and tried to see the movie. The first time he got stuck in traffic for like an hour.
It turned my 20-minute travel into an hour and 20-minute travel. I would have missed
So much of the best parts of this movie.
Actually, though.
You would have, yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I think we're all good here, so I'm going to sign off. I'm Matt Hanna.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannahs and Matt today. Thank you for listening. Happy
Hannahs and the
Halloween.
Matts.
Halloween happened already, but happy Halloween.
Yes.
Hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed our costume posts.
Yeah.
You'll
Follow
be
us everywhere. Give us a like. Give us the 5 stars. Do all that stuff. We're trying to get more ads, so you got to do that so we get more ads so we can do more podcasts. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannahs on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!